Welcome to the Healthy Homes panel, Energy Efficiency, Electrification, and Equity. I'm going to actually come back to each of these panelists and introduce them for you so you can get some insight into their work and their organizations. We'll be right back to that. This panel is actually brought to you by the Zero Coalition and Electrify Now. So I'll tell you a little bit about our organizations. My name is Ashley Haight, and I am the program manager for the Zero Coalition. And I put our new website up there. So it's zerocoalitionoregon.org. Please visit us. I'll tell you a little bit about our work in a second. So what have we been up to? We updated our mission recently, and we're committed to an equity-centered approach to decarbonizing buildings in Oregon. We work to ensure that the market conditions and regulatory frameworks are in place to advance sustainability and the built environment in a way that leaves no one behind. So we bring together the work and perspectives of energy efficiency organizations, policy advocates, construction, businesses, manufacturers, government agencies, community organizations, environmental justice partners, and energy service providers. So all together, we're collaborating to help Oregon meet its climate responsibilities. Let's go ahead. Sorry, can you go back one slide? Okay, so what have we been up to? So the Zero Coalition, we focus on ensuring that the buildings related portion of the new Executive Order 2004 is undertaken rapidly, accurately, and effectively. So we work with the governor's office on developing some of that information or some of that executive order related to the built environment. Development of a residential REACH code, and coordinating a local REACH proposal that was adopted and promoted by multiple Oregon cities. And the local process was framed as an opportunity to ensure that these local governments can adopt a REACH code at least 10% more energy efficient than the base statewide and commercial codes, and thereby reach the Executive Order 2004 standards ahead of the 2030 date stated in the executive order. So we're supporting Oregon cities in making forward progress with buildings related policies. And part of that is enabling localized control of building energy codes for new construction, engaging with the city of Portland to provide technical support on rental housing, and commercial building performance standard policy development in Portland. I actually want to back up for a second. There was something I wanted, if you go back. Oh, yes. So a little bit about Sustainable Building Week. Sustainable Building Week was founded 4 years ago as a way for Portland's design and construction communities to convene and foster collaboration to keep Portland green. So Sustainable Building Week's primary goal is to learn from each other and continue to evolve Portland's legacy as a leader in sustainability practices. So this year's event included educational presentations, panels, open houses, and even home tours. So if you want to learn more about Sustainable Building Week, maybe get involved and host an event next year, check it out at sustainablebuildingweek.com. And there's something else that I wanted to do today before we move on, and it's a land acknowledgement. So we're going to put a link, there actually is a link now in the chat. And if you go ahead and click on that, you can type in your location and actually find out which indigenous tribes were in the land before other people arrived. So the Portland metro area rests on traditional village sites of the Multnomah, Wasco, Cowlitz, Cathlamet, probably said that wrong, Clackamas, bands of Chinook, Tualatin, Kalapuya, Molala, and many other tribes who made their homes along the Columbia River. Indigenous people have created communities and summer encampments to harvest and enjoy the plentiful natural resources of the area for the last 11,000 years. So we want to recognize that Portland today is a community of many diverse Native peoples who continue to live and work here. So we respectfully acknowledge and honor all Indigenous communities, past, present, and future, and are grateful for their ongoing and vibrant presence. We also acknowledge the systemic policies of genocide, relocation, and assimilation that still impact many Indigenous and Native American families today. As settlers and guests on these lands, we respect the work of Indigenous leaders and families and pledge to make ongoing efforts recognizing their knowledge, creativity, and resilience. If you want to go ahead and add in the chat, the location or the tribes that came up when you looked up your address, go ahead and do that now. It's really interesting to see. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is, this event is brought to you by Electrify Now, like I said, and Zero Coalition. And Electrify Now has this great program that they partner with Community Energy Project on called Electrify Everyone. And it's this low-income water heater replacement program. So these heat pump water heaters are replacing gas water heaters. And over $1,500 is the typical family savings on energy bills. 25 tons of CO2 is avoided from each new water heater installation, which is fantastic. So next I wanted to introduce Themba Mutepwa. And Themba is a Zimbabwean native who has a background in community health education and environmental health justice work. So prior to his current position, he worked as a data analyst in the Maternal and Child Health Department for the state of Oregon. He assisted in Title V block grant, which provides funding to the state maternal and child health programs, serving 35 million women and children in the US to gain access to preventative health services and information. Moving to the States and being raised by a single mother in a low-income community gave him the passion he has today to help improve our communities. His dreams and goals are to help bring environmental wellness and health to underserved communities. So Themba, tell me a little bit about how you got into this work and your program.
Yeah, thank you, Ashley. Greetings, everyone. My name again is Themba Mutepwa. I am the projects coordinator at Verde Builds. I guess to start off how I got into this, a little bit from what Ashley was saying. I moved here from Zimbabwe about 20 years ago now, and my first experience was living in New Hampshire in a small apartment with my single mother and siblings, where we had horrible heating and insulation systems. And so that just kind of drove me into researching more on environmental health and wellness. And I went into college and pursued my degree in public health. And after that, got into the public health sector. And so I've been very, very intrigued and inspired in environmental health and wellness, and landed this opportunity with Verde, and have been working with them in providing environmental health and wellness in the Coley neighborhood and Portland Metro, and low-income BIPOC communities. One of our programs and our goals right now is to install 200 ductless heat pump systems in low-income neighborhoods in the Portland Metro area. And so what we do, we try to collaborate with other contractors like HVAC contractors, and we're trying to hopefully provide heating and cooling systems for either low cost to free. A lot of these DHP systems about $5,000 just to get installed. So right now our goal is to try to get more funding so we can continue doing more home retrofits and energy upgrades. And so yeah, I've just been so far enjoying the work that we're doing, and we're hoping to continue reaching out to more underserved communities that we can assist in more home weatherization, upgrades, and energy efficiency.
Thank you so much, Timba. That's fantastic work you're doing. I want to introduce our next panelist for today, Jackie. So Jackie Zusi Russell is Community Energy Projects Communications Coordinator and Home Energy Score Assessor. So for almost 10 years, Jackie has worked in advocacy for nonprofit causes, residential energy efficiency, and solar. She has worked on successful political campaigns in both Oregon and Nevada. She has conducted home energy scores on over 1,000 homes in the Portland area and is a certified sustainable homes professional. So welcome, Jackie. I'd love to hear a little bit about how you got into this work and the programs at Community Energy Project.
Thanks, Ashley. So yeah, my name is Jackie Suzai Russell. I've been with Community Energy Project for a little over 3 years now. And I kind of got started in this just working in energy efficiency, and on the side, working in like volunteering and stuff for social justice causes. And so Community Energy Project really gave me the opportunity to bring those two concepts together to be able to fight for climate justice and be able to support communities that are often overlooked. And so if you go to the next slide, a little bit about our programs. We have two kind of main like branches. We have our community engagement side where we teach free community workshops around DIY weatherization for both the heating and cooling season. And income qualified folks get a kit of free materials to install in their homes themselves. We also have programs around lead poisoning prevention. So we teach kind of a level 101 level workshop around lead poisoning prevention, and then a next level class for homeowners that are looking to do lead paint disturbing projects in their homes and how to safely do those projects. And then we are also the low income facilitator for statewide Oregon Community Solar. And then on our direct home services side of things, where we're actually going out into folks' homes to install upgraded mechanical systems and things like that. We do small home repairs, such as adding grab bars in bathrooms or fixing broken stairs, little things like that, as well as installing some of the small weatherization measures similar to what are given out in the kits for our workshops. So that includes like the plastic window kits, as well as pipe insulation, outlet gaskets, that kind of thing. We also offer home energy scores, both as a fee-for-service program and for free for our income qualified folks. And then in certain neighborhoods, we have larger budgets to do larger energy upgrades for folks. So like the water heater program that we were talking about, as well as new furnaces or insulation, new roofs, larger projects like that. And then our clientele, next slide. So over a 3-year average, 57% of our folks are BIPOC individuals, 72% are at or below 50% median family income, 71% identify as women, 28% are seniors, and 33% are disabled. So no matter what, CEP has a program for you.
Thank you, Jackie. That's great work y'all are doing there. Next, I want to introduce our last panelist. So Isaiah Kammerer is the program manager for the PISA funded program, Power to the People PDX, an African American Alliance for Homeownership. So with this program, he aims to help reduce the barriers to entry in the green economy for Black homeowners by tackling underlying systemic issues that prevent frontline communities from accessing investments to protect them from adverse effects of climate change. Isaiah graduated from Southern Oregon University with dual degrees in economics and financial mathematics and a research focus on the inequitable returns on investment in college education. He has been working in housing and program management for the past 6 years and is thrilled to have the opportunity to lead OZ's newest sustainability program for the African American community in Portland, Oregon. Welcome, Isaiah.
All right, thank you, Ashley. It's wonderful to be here today. I just wanted to kind of introduce a little bit about AWE and kind of our programs and who we serve. So if we actually go to the next slide, African American Alliance for Home Ownership, or AWE as we call it, primarily serves Black homeowners in the Portland area. Most of them are low-income households, and many of them do reside in the urban renewal areas, although displacement over the past couple of decades has seemed to have kept a lot of these families out. So we continually to work hard to expand eligibility of certain programs to allow these homeowners outside of the urban renewal areas to access these targeted programs. At AWE, we do aim to be kind of a one-stop shop for the Black homeowner when it comes to kind of obtaining, maintaining, and sustaining the home and homeowner wealth. So we have a collection of services and programs that we do to achieve this, from pre-purchase counseling to foreclosure prevention counseling. We have water leak mitigation in partnership with Portland Water Bureau. We do have some emergency repairs and match saving home repair programs. And we do an asset preservation program where we host estate planning webinars and offer free estate planning services to families in the interstate corridor area in order to kind of to help them retain their that intergenerational wealth, which is when it comes to home ownership is a huge source of economic prosperity, especially across generations. And then our newest program, Power to the People PDX, I'm very fortunate to get to lead it as program manager. We offer energy efficiency services. And thank you. So we do this through a combination of education, audits, project planning, and energy retrofits, including solar energy installation and match savings for electric vehicles. So we really are pushing for the adoption of our community, really on the demand and supply side, by employing Black contractors to carry out a lot of these installations. Itself is a female-led and Black majority nonprofit, and we aim to serve the same households. So let's see, if we actually go to the next slide, we can kind of dig into what the Power to the People program actually kind of includes. So I mentioned webinars and upgrades in solar. And yeah, we're really looking to employ kind of a case management approach to addressing home energy projects. We definitely believe that a holistic approach is essential to making sure that the homeowner needs are met. And this involves many community partnerships. So we've partnered with Verde, we've partnered with Community Energy Project on their ductless heat pump programs and heat pump water heater programs, respectively, within the Power to the People program, as well as the Multnomah County Weatherization program. So one thing we've noticed is a lot of homes do have what we call non-energy related repairs that also needs to be addressed kind of in conjunction with the energy efficiency. So by taking this case management approach, we do hope to address kind of the full range of homeowner needs, whether or not it's coming directly from our PISA funded energy program, or providing referrals, or accessing other funds to address kind of these complementary repairs and needs. So yeah, that's what I've got for here. I'll hand it back to Ashley.
Yeah, thank you so much, Isaiah. Well, I think we're ready to just jump right into our panel. So I have some questions for you all. So first of all, who do your programs serve, and why is this work so important now?
So for Community Energy Project, we kind of went through the folks that we serve already. But the reason that it's so important right now is if you think about it in terms of the climate justice movement. And climate justice is the intersection of social justice and environmental justice and housing justice and human rights justice and all of those different justices into one common concept. And the most important thing that I think that relates to climate justice is the concern that those who are least responsible for climate change suffer its gravest consequences. And how can we address those consequences? How can we remediate those issues and support those communities that are so often overlooked by the green movement and energy efficiency and all these different things when they're not the ones at fault for climate change? And so it's really important to understand that now and how we can move forward. Like the three of us have all talked about very similar programs and the intersection even between our three organizations of how we can work together to remediate these issues and bring these programs to folks to be able to live more comfortably, bring down their energy bills, reduce their impacts, and things like that.
Thank you, Jackie. That's wonderful. Does anyone else want to jump in?
Yeah, to go off what Jackie was saying about climate justice, the work that we're doing as well, we're trying to collaborate with other nonprofit organizations that we can hopefully increase the funding as well for these low income BIPOC communities. And so it's an important movement that we're trying to for sure fulfill and advocate for the people that, as Jackie mentioned, are not responsible for, climate change, yet they pay some of the most, high price, whether it's energy and energy usage, they're paying a lot more for their homes and other avenues. And so the movement, green energy movement, is really important to make sure that we're also advocating for for people in low income / BIPOC communities. And it's important.
Thank you, Timba.
I'll springboard off of that a little bit, kind of to both of your points about being able to have these folks access these services and technologies. What you see in the market today is really kind of reflective of kind of a lot of the current disparities that we see. So, when it comes to black homeowners, they are one of the lowest rates of adoption of solar energy or other energy efficient technologies. So understanding, where those barriers are and employing these program efforts to reduce those barriers is extremely important. And luckily there is kind of this growing movement really across the country and locally to where we're slowly breaking down those barriers. And then another point that I want to just point out is we talk about kind of the demand side of these technologies, but on the supply side of who's actually installing these sustainable technologies, there's almost an even larger disparity in the number of Black-owned contracting companies that are able to do these types of installations. So programs like the Portland Clean Energy Fund definitely strive to kind of increase the workforce capacity of within the community, so that the folks receiving these services are getting these services from people who represent their own community. So
yeah, that's a really good point. Gosh, it's such a important topic now from the heat wave recently in Portland too. It's crazy. So my next question is, what are some of the biggest challenges that you face in this work?
I would say some of the biggest challenges we're facing right now is funding. Our incentives are not completely covering the costs of our participants. And so due to the incentives that we're receiving, usually it covers most of the costs of, for example, for our program, our DHP program, the heating and cooling systems. However, even a few $100s, what we're noticing, even just a few $100s left from the proposal, a lot of our potential participants are backing out actually because, even if it's a system that's $5,000 and they're getting 4,200 of it covered, that $800 is a ton of money for a lot of people that just don't have that money that are in these communities. And so what we're hoping, that's one of the barriers, is to hopefully get more funding that will cover the costs of these energy upgrades that we're trying to fulfill. And other barriers that we're running into is fuel switching. As some of our participants, the incentives require that our participants have electric-based heating and cooling systems installed already. And so for people who have gas furnaces, for example, oil, homes that run off gas and oil don't qualify for these incentives. And so that's a huge portion of the population that we're leaving out when it comes to the funding that we need in order to create a much more equitable approach from top, down, and to what we're seeing in the communities. And so we lose a lot of potential participants whenever we come across people that would like to participate but have gas and oil. And so, between the incentives, hopefully we do some policy reform, hopefully advocating for policy reform so that we can get more funding. I think it's very imperative for just creating a much more equitable approach for our justice or climate justice and in our communities.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And to kind of go back to what Isaiah was saying earlier, as well as some of these non-energy related measures, there's so much deferred maintenance that we often see in a lot of the homes of clients that we work with. And there's a lot that we can't do until those issues are addressed. So for example, with our attic insulation program, we run into a lot of knob and tube wiring or folks with vermiculite, where the cost to remediate those issues is astronomical in comparison to just the program itself. And so that's often an automatic disqualifier for these folks when they're the ones who really need these programs the most. And we just don't have enough funding to be able to remediate those issues and get them the things that they need. And similarly with us as well, we have a lot of folks that are still on oil furnaces, and all of the incentives for anything having to do with oil are gone now. They used to exist years ago, but I think it was around, I want to say about 30% or so of our clients are still on oil furnaces. And it's really expensive to change out those systems and remediate the oil tanks in a safe way to be able to get them the upgrades that they need.
Yeah, I would add to that. I like to frame the issue of deferred maintenance as kind of a hierarchy of homeowner needs. Is you being able to address the basic system maintenance of the home is very important. And when you're providing education and opportunities for energy efficiency upgrades or solar installation, the priorities often don't match up with the realities faced by those homeowners. So being able to kind of build from the bottom up based on where that homeowner's starting point is allows us to be a little bit more inclusive, although it does involve a lot more work in terms of trying to identify those resources for the homeowners. Because you talk to most homeowners, and they do want to have, they want to reduce their energy bills, they want to go solar, but the roadmap for them to get there is insurmountable in some cases. So yeah, so making sure that when we approach folks with these programs that we're conscious of the situation that they're likely in. Black low income homeowners are likely to live in older homes, have less tolerance of variability and expenses. Even $800 is too much for some of these homes. So and when you defer maintenance, often those costs increase over time and can compound on each other. So it's definitely we're definitely kind of opening up a can of worms here when we go into these homes. So it's just something to be very, very conscious of, especially on the policy design front. Targeted energy programs are helpful, but only to a certain extent, to where they're actually applicable to the homeowners that are what we call energy efficient ready.
Thank you, Isaiah, and everyone. Let's move on to the next question. So what does holistic policy design look like within the context of your programs?
Yeah, so I guess kind of as an example, and kind of springboarding off of Temba's point about the incentives not necessarily matching up with the homes. When we think of like a holistic policy design and an ability to take almost like a systems-based approach, understanding that if you have a mismatch of incentives, how do you resolve that? The answer is either more funding or a change in the policy design itself. So a systems-based approach kind of takes a bottom-up perspective of allowing flexibility through exception requests. If it's an oil heated home, offer that exception and be able to provide that incentive. And from a policymaker's perspective here, understand that if you have a certain volume of exception requests, that hey, maybe the policy can shift a little bit to incorporate this demand for these incentives. One thing that was kind of became glaringly obvious to us this summer was the heat pump incentives are for electric heated homes, but they only really consider the heating source of the home and almost completely disregard whether or not that home has any effective cooling system. So understanding that a ductless heat pump can still help a homeowner who has a gas furnace and doesn't necessarily have to be a full fuel switching, right? That gas furnace can act as a backup heat system. But in the summertime, all of a sudden they have access to cooling, which as we see, as we see from this last summer, with the heat wave, being able to cool your home is crucial. So it's really the implementation of people who are on feedback from people who are on the ground, who are going into these homes, that are understanding the complex nature and challenges that the homeowners still face when all of these policies and programs have been developed kind of from this initially from this top down. So it's an ability to adapt and to be able to continually improve how these programs and policy goals are achieved. So.
Yeah.
What about Temba? Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, Isaiah covered it very well. Pretty much, I was kind of going to repeat some of the same stuff. It's getting that approach and yeah, on a policy level, like Isaiah was mentioning, and the implementation of just a much more equitable, I guess, incentives and yeah, that holistic approach, understanding it where the people are coming from and understanding it from like ground up instead of top down. I think, yeah, just how Isaiah mentioned, it was perfect. I mean, it's very crucial. It's important. And yeah, like the heat wave this past summer, I'm sure it's not going to be the last. Guessing it's probably going to be one of many, and we have to prepare. I think there's more work to be done for sure, and we can continue to improve. That way we can be more prepared for the future and the next years to come. when it comes to climate change, you know, and so, yeah, I think, as Ed said it very well, yeah.
Jackie?
Yeah, I'd just like to echo what Temba and Isaiah were saying. I think a lot of times some of these policies are kind of just a one size fits all when that's not actually the case on the ground. In the over 1,000 homes that I've been in doing home energy scores, each one is different. I mean, with all of the old homes that we have here, I think it's a sort of older study, but I think it was from 2017 or 18 that showed that around 80% of Portland homes are built before 1980. And a lot of times I'm in homes that are 100 years or older. And there have been lots of families, lots of people that have come through these homes and done different things. So you can't just take a one size fits all approach, because we have a very diverse housing stock and each one needs to be assessed for its specific needs. And there are similarities between a lot of them, but not every single one is going to be the same. And to have that kind of policy just doesn't really work when it actually comes down to it.
I want to move on to the next question here. So how do health impacts drive the work that you're doing? Is there like a connection between energy bills and the health of communities and those living in these homes?
Yeah, this is one area that really drives me, as well as that intersection of the health and energy efficiency upgrades. As someone who has really bad asthma, this has been something that's always been really important for me, not just on a personal level, but just from, I know there's a lot of other folks that suffer from really bad asthma as well. And this is something that's really, really important. There's so many different issues that can arise from some of these old buildings that we live in. There's respiratory issues, whether it's asthma or any other type of respiratory issues that can be accelerated by both dampness, mold formation, air infiltration. I mean, we saw that last year with the fires. Like my house was built in 2007, so not super duper old, more airtight than a house built in 1920. But I was having really bad asthma issues every day for that week and a half that we were suffering from smoke. And even just making a little DIY filter with my box fans and furnace filters, within a day, the filters themselves looked like they had not been changed in a year. They had just been like sitting in my furnace. They were that gross. And there's also mental health effects, anxiety over high energy bills, poor thermal conditions that can have an effect on your mental and physical health from just the constant fluctuation of temperatures, the drafts. There's just so many different health issues that go hand in hand with the lack of energy efficient upgrades, especially in the older homes that we have here in Portland. I had done some research a couple of years ago on another panel that I spoke on similar to this one, and it talked about they had done a study in some homes that didn't have energy efficiency upgrades, but the folks in those homes had health issues due to that. And then the remediation of those issues after having energy efficiency upgrades. And it showed that the impacts of weatherization in those low income housing showed a 12% decline in asthma related emergency service use, 9% decrease in persistent colds, 13% decrease in eczema and allergies, and greater than $400 decline in annual Medicaid and Medicare claims. So it works. we have the data to prove it. Not only hard numbers, but just if you talk to people, again, using myself as an example, I had been living in an old building in Goose Hollow that was built in 1909 and was having to take my rescue inhaler 3 or 4 times a day, which anybody with asthma knows that that's not good for you. And then was eventually able to move into a new building that was going for LEED certification. And within a month, I was only having to take my rescue inhaler if something triggered it, not just because I was existing in my home. So we have both the like actual impacts of talking to people with health issues and seeing the differences there, but we have the actual numbers to back up these claims. So it's really important that not only that decarbonization is part of this, but also the health impacts and how it can actually affect people just existing inside their own homes.
Wow, that's really impactful. My goodness. Temba, were you gonna add something?
Yeah, no, that was awesome, Jackie. I was just going to add to that. As far as the health part goes, I mean, you know, a lot of people that are in this situation have, you know, I would assume that a lot of them don't even realize that their health is being impacted. You know, they're struggling to meet day-to-day finances already as it is. You know, and so to speak in from my experience as well, I when I first moved to the States, we lived in a really old building as well, and my brother, who has asthma, you know, started having issues, and he was wheezing, and it took a while before we went to the doctors. Now he's having allergy issues, and we only really realized it once we left for vacation to go and see some family, and all of a sudden my brother's asthma was fine, you know, and we came back, and all of a sudden his asthma was back and my allergies are back. And so I think a lot of, you know, for a lot of the people in the communities that are living in these poor conditions, I mean, bless their souls, because they don't even they might not even notice or realize what's impacting their health. You know, some people could think it's a genetic thing or something, maybe they're stressed out from work while actually their health is being impacted. And so later we found out we were, you know, exposed to mold, and various, you know, asbestos and whatnot, and that was impacting our health, and we didn't even know. We just thought we had just allergens from whatever. And so you know, as Jackie mentioned, like the research is there and the studies are there, and so motility rate just ends up going up for people in these communities, and people are dying at younger ages, you know, and you know, we have to put two and two together and look at it from that holistic point of view, and understanding that this is impacting people on a broad scale, you know. And yeah, so I mean, very well said by Jackie. I just wanted to add to that because I you know, concur. I speak from experience as well, and yeah, I feel like we need to continue to advocate for people so we can have a healthier environment for everyone, you know.
And I would add to, you know, of understanding of, you know, how to frame these issues, and understanding that, you know, the issues that, you know, Temba and Jackie are talking about are structural. It's based on where, you know, these homes are located, whether it's, you know, noise pollution or proximity to certain areas that impact health. There was a recent PSU professor who went around during the heat wave and measured that there was nearly I think a 13-degree difference between some of the poor Black neighborhoods and the richer white neighborhoods in Portland. So one thing that we include in our education webinars is to be forward-looking, right? Climate change is happening. It's you know, BIPOC communities and homeowners are really part of this frontline community. They're going to experience the first and worst of the consequences of climate change. And our role, you know, as you know, program managers and coordinators, is to anticipate those effects and really promote, you know, this idea of climate resilience, right? What are the things that are going to, in the long term, you know, improve and really protect at this point that the health and you know, the health, whether it's the physical health or financial health, and even structural health when we go back to the deferred maintenance issues of these homes. So you know, we're really kind of building in this idea of resilience in the long term is extremely important, right? You can, you know, you can improve some energy efficiency things here and there, but understanding, you know, the risks that you and your family are going to face you know, in 5 years when, you know, we maybe have longer heat waves, it's important to have a plan and have resources close at hand that you can access when they're needed. So.
Yeah.
Excellent points.
Even, yeah, and even like productivity. I mean, just kind of go off what Isaiah's talking about. I mean, with the heat waves, how can you be productive if you sit in a home that it's so hot? And you know, a lot of people these days are working from home, and so yeah, it cuts into like productivity. If you're either too cold in your home or you're too hot in your home, how productive are you to give back to society? You know, in your work. And so that part too, I mean, it's just the list goes on, you know, and yeah, I feel like, yeah, it's really, really important work.
Yes, absolutely. It's so interesting too, because the people that could afford the best air purifiers or air conditioning during the heat wave, you know, and filtration systems, like you said, working from home, it's like they're going to be more productive and then continue to you know, have wealth building opportunities, whereas
Yeah.
people that can't afford those things wouldn't be able to. So
Yeah.
it's amazing. Okay, well, those were some excellent responses. Thank you so much to all of you. So now I think we wanted to talk about what people can do to support these efforts. And I think that, you know, it's really important to think about, you know, donating to these organizations. It's really important work. And, you know, there's other things you can do as well. If you think about, you know, writing to your legislators. And I had a few, yeah, so in the chat, thanks, Lindsay. We have some information about Community Energy Project, their programs, their contact information and everything like that. So you can go there to donate. And then there's information about in here as well. And here we go. And then there's, oh, and thanks, Lizzie. She put the links directly to each organization. So that's fantastic. And then I also wanted to mention, you know, if you want to, I was going to put this link in the chat to find your legislator. There's, here's a link where you can plug in your location and figure out who you need to contact. And then I also found this resource from Oregon State University that gives you some tips about how to write to an elected official. So, you know, things that I wouldn't have even thought of, like, you know, only write about one issue and, you know, personalize the letters, because that's going to have more of an impact. And then you can suggest a course of action, be constructive, and, you know, share if you have expert knowledge or wide experience, or, you know, like Temba and Jackie were sharing today. I imagine that, you know, telling your story would also have some impact. Oh, we have a request here. Can the host unlock the chat so we can copy the links? Good question. We'll see if that's possible. Okay, so so I wanted to come back. Let's put the panelists back, the slide back on the screen here, because we're ready for some Q&A. Yes, Lindsay, you're gonna share your screen here. And we do have some questions already in the chat. It looks like one from Melanie. Thanks, Melanie. Do you see a possible role for neighborhood by neighborhood upgrades to take advantage of economies of scale? Does anyone want to chime in on that?
Yeah.
I think that's a, you know, it's definitely a compelling question. I think one risk of taking kind of a neighborhood by neighborhood approach there would be, you know, this idea of kind of a one size fits all approach. So while you could, you know, kind of go door to door, you know, offering, you know, attic insulation to all the homes, and recognizing that all the homes may not, you know, necessarily require those. That type of insulation or be eligible based on their particular situation. I think one of the another risk that you run into is potentially making a problem worse than it is by taking this one size fits all approach. Because without that kind of individualized kind of perspective and having all of the resources necessary to kind of address that whole issue. You know, we've seen issues where, you know, well, we had someone install a heat pump water heater, and you know, a couple of weeks later, based on the age of the pipes, the leaks started to appear in the walls, which, you know, kind of in a way opened up a can of worms of having to now address this plumbing and restoration issue that was kind of triggered by this kind of quick installation. I think when it comes to, you know, solar or shading or you know, possibly, you know, there being some specific upgrades that would benefit from economies of scale and taking kind of a localized approach to them. I think in a lot of ways, you see like PSEF taking kind of a citywide approach, and you do see other programs that's focused specifically at like the interstate corridor or other urban renewal areas that have seen success. So yeah, I think I think it's definitely there's definitely potential in taking that type of approach in some certain cases.
Thank you, Isaiah. I know we have a few more questions coming in here, but did anyone else want to answer that one? We can move on to the next one. Okay. Are programs available for those who rent? Advocacy to encourage and help landlords make improvements? Thinking of organizations that may serve as a neutral party. Thank you, Melissa.
A couple of our programs are available for renters. All of our free workshops, as well as the statewide community solar program, are available for renters. Our DIY weatherization workshops are really great for renters as well, as they're mostly like non-permanent measures that you can install. So you can, you know, take them when you leave or something like that. A couple of our other programs are available for renters with landlord approval. But most of our direct home services programs are for single family homes. So if you are a renter for a single family home and have landlord permission, there's a couple of them that we can make those exceptions for. But in multifamily, I usually recommend to folks the workshops, since those are great for renters of single family and multifamily both, but really great, especially for folks that are in apartments. As like I said, they're non-permanent measures that you can install even if you're in a little tiny apartment kind of thing. So there's a couple at least of our programs that are available and would work well for renters.
Absolutely. Another question here. How do you begin to do a project like retrofit a building's lighting from fluorescent to LED? Something so small yet has a big impact. So thanks, GC. Anybody want to jump in there?
I can touch on that one a little bit. I know our in-homes auditors, when they go out to do the audits to see like what we can actually do in folks' homes, that is one of the things that they look at, like what type of lighting folks have. And we do offer LED bulbs to folks if they're interested. So that is something that we do take note of while we have folks on site, kind of assessing people's homes.
Julie has a question. So particularly with the funding of heat pump cooling and heating, the neighborhood approach worked very well for solar installation. I guess it's more of a statement. Does anyone want to talk about solar? Into that?
I guess, yeah, I'd be curious what solar installation she's talking about. Yeah, I mean, as far as neighborhood by neighborhood, I would be curious to hear more and what she would have to say about that. Obviously, it's a little more difficult. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I see someone's mentioning the community solar, but our program, we do aim to provide solar energy installations for homes, and understanding that most of these homes are older. The city of Portland has some policies and permitting requirements in place that makes it extremely difficult for older homes that have rafters in there to hold up their roofs. It requires kind of an engineering assessment as well as potential structural upgrades in order just to qualify. So while there are homes, particularly those that are newer builds that use truss structures, those are able to kind of be streamlined for solar energy. So it definitely encourages new buildings to maybe automatically implement the solar installations. But with these older homes, it can be extremely difficult to install solar, mainly because the structural requirements often may exceed just a simple roof replacement. You're actually looking at kind of the structural upgrades needed, which can be cost prohibitive to low income homeowners who are more likely to live in these older homes. And I know that there have been some issues with the community solar, but I think that framework poses a lot of promise for folks that are looking to kind of trade out and demand more sustainable energy for their homes and have the ability to reduce their bills. I don't know if CEP can offer a little bit more on the community solar bit.
We actually only have like 1 minute left, and there was one more question I wanted to get to. Melissa was asking, what are your strategies for getting the word out about your services?
I know at CEP we use a multi-pronged approach to outreach. So we utilize partnerships with other organizations throughout the city to help get the word out to their folks. We have partnerships with some low-income housing to provide our weatherization workshops there, as well as the WIC clinics for lead poisoning prevention. Pre-COVID times, we would be out at different community events or going door to door. So we utilize all the different ways that you could possibly do outreach that you can.
Yeah, likewise. We're pretty much doing the same thing, outreach. And we're also sending out flyers to pretty much sectors of Portland that are using the most energy in Portland metro area. And so we have flyers that we just started sending out about a few weeks ago. We had outreach collaboration with other nonprofits as well. We try to do word of mouth as well from some of the participants that we have. We just tell them, hey, spread the word, and a lot of them end up referring to their neighbors. And so, yeah, we're doing various outreach work in order to get the word out there for sure.
I would say with our program, with it being so new, we have actually focused more inward. We have this repurchasing counseling program, which kind of feeds us a pipeline of new homeowners that stand to benefit by by as early as possible, reducing their energy costs. So we have leaned on that pipeline a lot. And then, again, these community partnerships are invaluable. And, as we design this program and understand the complexities of it, that I think that has kind of held back on our own outreach and marketing efforts, because we want to make sure that we're providing an effective service that doesn't cut corners and does provide that holistic approach. So I would say it's a work in progress. We definitely have plans to scale up and increase those marketing. But for now, we definitely see this as kind of like a pilot approach, because it's all of this is very new, and we want to make sure that we do it right, especially with with racial justice and equity in mind.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank all of you so much. That was just fantastic information, and the work you're doing is so important. So we all appreciate you. And yeah, attendees, I hope that you can donate to if you want to, maybe Lindsay, go back to the Electrify Everyone slide. That's what we're kind of asking. Choose one of these organizations, whether it's CEP or Verde, and also, if you can, give a little bit to Electrify Everyone. So thanks so much for joining, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.